Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Play Easy Warm-Up podcast, the show where we dive into the people and stories shaping the sporting event and tourism industry. I'm your host, Kerri Shields, and today's episode is a special one. Not only is today's guest a key figure in shaping college basketball, but she's also one of my best friends. She's family to me. And I'm thrilled to welcome Lauren Tebsherany, Director of Basketball and Conference Operations at the Big East. Lauren is at the heart of making sure the Big East runs smoothly, handling everything from scheduling to tournament operations and so much more. Before joining the Big East, Lauren made her mark in men's college basketball as one of just 3 women on a Division I men's basketball coaching staff, serving as the Director of Basketball Operations at Northeastern University. I met Lauren during my first year at Boston College, when I convinced her to take on the role as a team manager for our basketball team. I haven't talked too much about my college basketball experience before, but my playing career at BC was full of a lot of change and uncertainty. I had 3 coaching changes, my whole class transferred, and the year above me transferred after my freshman year. And there were many moving parts that made my career quite a roller coaster. Through all of that, Lauren is one of the very few constants in my life, and she still is today. I feel incredibly honored and proud to call her a friend and to witness her thrive in her career. She is one of the best things to come out of my college experience, and I know I wouldn't be where I am today professionally or personally without her love and support. She pushes me to be better, and I think one of life's greatest gifts is having someone like that in your corner. Today, we'll dive into Lauren's journey in sports, how she's navigated the industry, what it takes to manage one of the most competitive conferences in college basketball, and of course, a few behind-the-scenes stories along the way. She's someone who brings passion, dedication, and an incredible work ethic to everything she does, and I can't wait for you all to hear her story. Get ready to call dibs. Utah's newest sports megaplex, Western Sports Park, opens spring 2025 in Davis County, Utah's amusement capital. Less than 30 minutes from Salt Lake City, this venue is built to be a game day contender. With 55 acres of multi-purpose fields, top-tier facilities, and amenities for teams, fans, and families alike. Choose from WSP's multiple indoor arenas, 6 full-sized fields, or the stunning championship field, complete with seating for 2,000 and breathtaking mountain views. What truly makes Western Sports Park a winner are the next-level extras. From private flex spaces, a referee lounge, on-site concessions to sensory rooms, and free parking, your team is covered on and off the field. If you're looking for ways to play beyond game day, it's easy. WSP is the newest addition, conveniently located next to Station Park, Davis County's popular entertainment district. Family-friendly restaurants, attractions, and hotels are just steps away. And Utah's only amusement park, Lagoon Park, is only a mile down the road. Give your MVPs the VIP treatment at Western Sports Park. Book now at westernsportspark.com. Lauren, welcome to the Play Easy Warm-Up podcast.
Thanks, Kerri. Good to be here.
Yeah, of course. And I know just preparing for this conversation, I thought about just how lucky are we that not only, for you to be one of the biggest people in my life, but that our careers have intertwined the way it has. And so it's just such a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. And I was thinking about how we always used to talk about starting our own podcast. So it's good to finally be in the chairs next to each other and get it going.
That's so true. It is so true. So to get started, could you talk about what first sparked your passion for basketball and how it led you to the career that you have today?
Yeah, absolutely. Basketball's just kind of always been a huge part of my life. I played a lot growing up, in youth leagues and Knights of Columbus leagues and things like that. But more than anything, I just really liked to be around it. So even though I wasn't very good, I was always on the team, but I always really liked to go to tournaments and just be around basketball. So I have vivid memories of making my parents drop me off at our New Hartford Christmas tournament or Knights of Columbus spring break tournament and just spending the entire day there and just wanting to be around basketball all the time. And I think that's just kind of what led me to this. And when I got to college, I met this girl. I don't know if you know her. Her name is Kerri Shields. And I told you that I really wanted to stay around it as much as I could. And you told me that they were looking for managers. And 4 years of Boston College basketball later, I kind of got into wanting my career to be in sports. So, long and short, it's always been a huge part of my life.
Yeah, brings back a lot of great memories. And so you started as a manager in college, and you've taken a super interesting career path. I love to brag about you all the time. Could you walk us through kind of your next steps after being a manager at Boston College?
Yeah, so I was, like you said, manager for 4 years, and just also worked in a lot of different roles in the athletic department while we were at BC. I worked in the media relations space. I went to a lot of lacrosse games and tweeted for them, and I wanted to be around like anything and everything college athletics at the time. I also had an internship with the Boston Celtics when we were seniors, so getting to be around professional basketball was a great experience too, but it also kind of made me realize that I really liked the college aspect of athletics. So I just kind of picked everybody's brain who I possibly could when we were at BC, and just I realized that my boss when I was a manager, who's the director of basketball operations, Chris Baran, he kind of he did the job that I think that I thought that I could really do. And he just gave me advice on how to get there and how to make it a career. And I ended up becoming a director of basketball operations at Bryant University for the women's team there. It was a graduate assistant position when I started, even though it was, a full-time job, but I lived on campus at Bryant, and I worked a million hours and figured the job out. I was 22 years old. I was the same age as some of the girls on the team. So I gotta, I had to figure it all out, and with lots of people helping me along the way. But then I went to Northeastern University. I worked for the women's team and men's team there. And I was a director of basketball operations for 7 years at Northeastern, and most recently I became director of basketball and conference operations at the Big East.
So cool. And I realized recently that some of the acronyms that we use in the basketball world are not synonymous to a lot of other sports. So when I introduced you as the Dobo, previous Dobo, it's funny that people aren't as familiar with that. Sure. So what were some key moments or experiences that helped shape the path to your position today at the Big East?
I think that being a director of basketball operations was an awesome career for me for 11 years. I loved it. I grinded. I worked so hard in those positions, and I got to be around student athletes every day in such an intense way, and got to be a part of their journeys, and it was amazing. And as I gotten into my 30s and needed to figure out kind of what my big girl job was going to be, I realized that I wanted to be in a similar space, but with different challenges. So this job that I'm in now is kind of a more macro version of what I used to be doing. So instead of working with one team and 13 basketball players, I'm working with 11 teams on a bit more removed from the everyday grind of the student athlete life. So I think that's kind of what got me to this point, and just wanting something a little bit different, a little bit more big picture, instead of living and dying by the wins and losses and the if people went to class or if they passed their math exam. Now being around college athletics on a bigger scale, that's kind of what pushed me to this point in my career.
And what does a typical day look like in your role as the director of basketball and conference operations look like?
Yeah, so we work partially remote. So I'm working from home a couple days a week, and then I'm in the office in New York a couple days a week. So when we're either way, we're on virtual calls a lot, just planning for different parts of the season. So it looks a little different in different months, whether you're in the season or postseason or in the middle of the tournament. So, but virtual calls when I'm home, and then when we're in the office, planning for different things, emailing different coaches, and being involved in different aspects of what's going on in the conference, whether it's from a basketball perspective or different events. So it's different every day, but yeah, half the time remote and half the time in Manhattan.
And I was lucky enough to be a spectator at the Big East Championships last week that you were responsible for hosting, and it was just probably one of the coolest sports experiences I've had, just seeing you kind of live out your Super Bowl. It was such an honor, and I was so proud. And it's crazy knowing you how much goes into those few days of basketball. Could you talk about what goes into planning a major event like the Big East tournament?
Yeah, so this was my first taste of it, and the best thing about the Big East tournament, especially the men's basketball tournament, is it's been at the same place for 43 years. So a lot of people know exactly what they're doing when they're running it. So although the preparation is kind of a year-long process, a lot of it is kind of just something that they know exactly how they're doing it and when things happen. So we prep for it all year, but a lot of people involved have been doing this for many, many years. So that was a kind of cool thing to see, that it just runs so smoothly because, first of all, people know what they're doing, but also people love this event. And it's, some people at Madison Square Garden say that it's their favorite days of the year. Their favorite work days of the year are the 5 days that we're there. So that's pretty cool. But, we prep from, I think we started our first meetings in August. I started in June. So I think our first call on it was in August, and we started with monthly meetings, prepping, and then we got into weekly meetings as we got closer. Same thing on the women's side, our tournament at Mohegan Sun. So we're kind of getting ready for both of those tournaments simultaneously, which was great. But yeah, a lot goes into it, a lot of calls with a lot of different types of people that I got to be joined in on. So not only our Big East staff, but we had calls with people in the sponsorship space, people at Madison Square Garden. Yeah, it was really interesting seeing how it all was planned and then how it all unfolded when we got there in March. So.
And I was with your dad beforehand, and he told me he was present for the first ever Big East tournament. I believe Providence was in the game, but it was cool to see from his eyes as well. Just what an amazing experience that was.
Yeah.
And I know it's a little bit different on the girls' side. Could you talk a little bit about some of the behind the scenes of preparing for the event at Mohegan Sun?
Yeah, so Mohegan Sun's a really unique place and a really great place to host an event. I found in the lead up and while we were on site. So every one of our 11 teams stayed on property at the casino at Mohegan Sun, which was a really unique thing, and I think made it feel a lot more intimate, and I really liked that part of it. We checked all the teams into the hotel personally. We met them all with their room keys, and I got to see them when they were arriving, which was really a cool experience for me as a former director of operations. I remember being like in their positions and knowing somebody was going to be there to meet them. I think took a little, ease their minds a little bit. So I was happy that I could be that person and be that a part of their, the first part of their entry into Mohegan Sun. But yeah, being there was great. Mohegan Sun does an awesome job. We had a full prep day where the court was installed and signs were put up, and we had practices on property for some of our teams, and it was all in all an awesome event. UConn won our tournament at Mohegan Sun, which was great. In pretty dominant fashion, but we had a lot of really good games during the week, and yeah, we were really lucky, and we're going into our last year of our contract at Mohegan Sun and hoping to explore furthering that relationship down the line.
And what role do host cities and venues play in the success of these Big East events?
Yeah, I think on the women's side, that's like Mohegan Sun is the perfect example of that. They just it's all inclusive, really. So teams come and stay there, they eat there, they have send-offs there, so their bands meet in the casino and welcome them to the arena, and they just do an awesome job. It's a mini city right there at Mohegan Sun, and from food to hotel to meeting space to arena to practice, like buses, everything is kind of all inclusive right there, and I think it was an awesome place to run an event. And then Manhattan obviously is a completely different beast. Manhattan is Manhattan, so it's a lot harder. Teams stay wherever they want to stay. We don't really see them until they arrive at the arena. But the cool thing about New York and having the tournament there for the last 40 years, 43 years is these teams have experience. They have hotels that they like to stay at. They have restaurants and bars where they like to host events for their alumni. And you just have a wide range of things that you're able to do. We have our bands and spirit teams go to the Empire State Building, and they get to be on, like, Good Morning America, local news bits, things like that, that are pretty unique to New York City. And so all in all, like, both tournaments very different in the way that they're held, but both super successful.
Yeah, and I think it's so unique to the Big East Conference in general, just that unique tradition of being in the same area. I mean, we were a part of the ACC tournament for 4 years, and it was an unbelievable experience in Greensboro. But there's really nothing like being a part of that Big East event. Could you speak to how do you see its impact on the sport today?
Yeah, and I think going back to what you said about Greensboro and the ACC, like, I think that was so special too, because there was tradition there. Being in Greensboro felt really special to us, and I think anytime you're in a place, one event is in a place for a long time, it just makes it more of an intimate experience. And I think there are people that attend that event year over year, and it becomes a tradition in their family, or a tradition with their kids, or a tradition with their friends. And I think that's kind of what Greensboro and the ACC have on the women's side. But yeah, going back to Madison Square Garden in New York, I think that, like you said, my dad was in attendance all those years ago, and there's something to be said for that people show up in March every year, the same week, to watch basketball. And the Big East has really rich basketball tradition, and I think John Fanta says it's built on Italian food and the Catholic Church, and it's a really interesting and unique tournament and a unique league. And I don't know, I think we're just all really lucky to be a part of it.
And I think it's to go back to Greensboro, you had me thinking of some of the tradition of being in Greensboro, but I'll never forget the chocolate that we would get every year that we would look forward to.
Yeah, like we'd wait for it. I think, like, also it makes me think of the people that we always had team hosts, and you might not even remember this because you were getting ready for the games and whatever, but we had these guys. I vividly remember this guy Kevin, who would be around us, and he was just a local Greensboro guy, and he would come and he would help us. He would drive us to get laundry, he would drive us to get water and Gatorade and all this stuff, but he was there every year, and he just loved ACC basketball. He loved being a part of this, but he was just a Greensboro guy with a Greensboro family, and I just loved that connection that we got to make with the city while we were there, and just a really unique part of it.
Of course, I remember Kevin. It's so interesting when I think back, because during that time, we had no idea. I had no idea that we were participating in a sports tourism event, and now being in this space and seeing the importance of the event experience, the athlete experience, and how much of someone like Kevin and those local organizing committees really made on my college experience, because it made us feel like it was the Super Bowl, even though, it wasn't the men's Final Four. It wasn't, luckily women's sports are much more nationally promoted now. But for me, like, I will always look back, not just on some of those big wins we had in the ACC tournament, some of those losses, but the overall experience around that I thought made just that event something to look forward to every year. And it doesn't just have to be at Madison Square Garden to have that. It's all about, the effort and support that those cities have when bringing in events.
Absolutely.
And so how do you work with the venues, hotels, and local tourism groups to bring everything together?
Yeah, so our relationship with Madison Square Garden, like I said before, is really strong. We recently signed a contract extension. I think we signed it last year. So it'll be a contract through 2032, which will allow us to have 50 consecutive Big East tournaments at Madison Square Garden, which is really an incredible feat. and our relationship with them is extremely strong. We have one of our teams in our league, St. John's, plays there on a regular basis. So we get to be there, a couple times during the year to see them play, and just chat with those guys while we're there. And then also we have semi-regular meetings with them in the lead up, and then as we get closer, like a weekly meeting, just to get prepared for what they need from us, for floor installation and different auxiliary events that are happening in the garden throughout the week. So it's a really, really strong relationship between the Big East and Madison Square Garden that I know everyone in our conference feels really lucky to have. And in terms of hotel relationships with the tournament in New York, we have a couple of hotels that we use at the Big East to house our officials and our staff, and some people from that are involved in our auxiliary events that are, relationships with. We have a Weston near our office that helps us out a ton, and then is willing to help us out in other times of the year just because of the business that we bring in during March. And the people there are fantastic to work with, and I think just those relationships are so important, especially in a city like that, where there are so many options to choose from, but having a go-to place that you feel comfortable sending people when they come into New York, I think is really important. But yeah.
Yeah, and were there any unexpected challenges that arose in either of the tournaments? And how did you handle them?
I think just because it was my first year this year, I went in with a totally open mind of, things are going to happen. And honestly, the most important thing is that basketball was being played on the court, and anything that was going on behind the scenes, whether it felt catastrophic at the time, as long as the basketball was happening, that was the most important thing. So I think that we were really lucky this year. There weren't really any major snafus. There was the, occasional little problem that came up, which is normal. And but I think we have a really good team, and we were able to handle everything that came our way, which was really great.
Have you taken any time to reflect on how much your role as a manager prepared you for the jobs that you've had since? Just thinking about how many things went wrong on our travel schedule, practice schedule, things that happened, and just have allowed for you to have the confidence to be in the position you're in today?
Yeah, so I think the thing about being a manager is that people talk about other duties as assigned as a sports kind of colloquialism, but as a manager, it's just no matter what someone asks of you, you're expected to do it. And it just taught me that I could and should do anything that it takes to, for the betterment of the team. And I took that into my position as a director of basketball operations. I had a team of managers in every role that I had as a Dobo, and I would never ask them to do something that I wouldn't personally do myself or didn't personally do myself as a manager at BC. And then I think going into this position now as we're running the tournament, no job is beneath me. I've done the craziest stuff. I used to hand you a water bottle, I used to do your aquaphor. I can do the menial things. It's never been a glamorous job for me, and that's not why I'm in this role. I like the nitty-gritty parts of the job of, whatever that is. But it's definitely those manager positions and tasks definitely prepared me, the hard work that I think I put into all of my career stops definitely started there.
Yeah. I always say it takes a very special person to be a manager, and have the most hireable people out there.
Yeah, and I hired a lot of really amazing people like that it does take a very special person, and it's not for everybody, but they really are. Anyone who's ever been a manager and at a high level is a very unique and well positioned to be a hard worker in the future. And we have intern positions now, and when I look at resumes and I see somebody who was a manager, they go up to the top of my list for sure.
That's awesome to hear. And I don't want to glare over your time as a Dobo on the Northeastern men's basketball staff. I believe you were one of three female coaches in Division One, which is incredible and just once again something I brag about you all the time. Could you just talk a bit about that experience and maybe were there people that helped you during the time, or some key moments that really led you into that role and made you as successful as you are?
Yeah, so I kind of lucked into the job really at the end of the day. It was COVID when I first started on the men's side. I was working as a women's basketball director of operations, and when COVID hit, there was a hiring freeze at Northeastern, and the men's Dobo was leaving. He was always gonna leave at the end of the year. He, had a new job that he was starting, and when the hiring freeze happened, he kind of reached out to me and was like, "Hey, Coach Cohen's going to need some help. They're not going to let him hire anybody. Like, what do you think?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm 100% down to help in any way that I can." And then had a conversation with Coach Cohen where he said, "I might have to lean on you a little bit." And because I had been at Northeastern for 4 years at that point, I had the institutional knowledge and, the knowledge of what his former Dobo had been doing. And so I was able to pick it up pretty quickly. So I was working on with both teams that year, which was absolutely chaotic. And everyone has their COVID stories of the chaos that ensued, especially in the sports world. But working with both teams through all of the cancellations and travel nightmares and testing and all that kind of stuff, it was crazy, but it helped me. I was working on both sides of the game, which was a really unique experience and kind of uniquely positioned me for the role I'm in now, where I'm working with both men's and women's basketball. There are not a lot of people that have that experience on both sides. So that's been like a really strong positive for me. But yeah, like along the way, I think most importantly, Coach Cohen was such a huge advocate for me, being a female on the men's side of the game, and also helping to push me to find what I wanted to do after that. I never wanted to be a coach, and so there was not really a ton of room for me to grow in that position unless I wanted to go to a higher level program. But he helped me to, reach out to other women that were in the in men's basketball and basketball in general, college athletics in general, and find out like what exactly how I could leverage my skills and what I was good at in this space and use them to my advantage, and kind of found that working in at the conference level was where the direction that I wanted to take, and he really pushed me to find that. So I think I am so grateful for his guidance and mentorship and just love when I was there. So.
And you are very humble, and I know a lot of things did happen to fall into your lap, but you are a prime example of someone who's taken every opportunity that's been in front of them, even when it's been, 24/7, 365, working all the time. It was really all of the work you put in to get you into the position that you're in today. And so has there been a wow moment yet of your career, specifically in the role that you're in today?
Yeah, I guess two. One recent one from when I first started at the Big East. We have meetings, basketball coaches meetings, and athletic director and SWA meetings in Florida, and I hadn't even really started in my role yet, but I went down just to kind of get introduced to the whole situation and meet everybody for the first time. And I was in a meeting with my two supervisors on the men's basketball side, and then the 11 Big East men's basketball coaches, which include Rick Pitino, Dan Hurley, Shaka Smart, Ed Cooley, all these and really amazing people. And, I was the 32-year-old woman sitting in the corner that hadn't even started at the Big East yet. And I kind of just was like, wow, this is insane. And this is a room that so many incredible Hall of Fame basketball coaches have sat in before as well. And I'm a Syracuse basketball fan. So Jim Boeheim, John Thompson, like all of these Big East legends and college basketball legends. And then now I'm here. And that was a really cool moment for me. And then just the past few weeks at the Big East tournament, I was sitting at the scorers table, 2 seats from the home team bench, and just watching the Big East tournament that I had helped organize and put on, just St. John's winning the championship with me sitting right there. It was a pretty cool moment. And my parents and were in the stands. So
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to sit next to your parents and
yeah.
to see them as proud as of you as I am. It was a really surreal moment. I know for us as well. So now for some personal questions. What is your favorite moment from our time at BC together, or is there a moment that stands out?
Uh, I have this vivid memory, and it's so random. It's not my favorite. It's just this vivid memory of our last home game at Conti Forum of you like making free throws at the end of the game to like seal a victory. And I don't know why. It was just like such an emotional moment for me. And I think I like stood up and from the bench and like took a picture of it. And maybe that's why I remember it. But we just went through so much while we were there. And then for us to win our last home game in a year that we didn't win a whole lot of games. But for you to be the person that, sealed the deal on the victory, and a lot of people that we loved were in the stands. A lot of people came to the game to support us for our senior day. And I don't know, it really sticks out to me as like such a special moment for us in Conti.
It's so funny because that was on my list. I had no other players that had their senior night, but you and I were the only seniors for our senior day, and it was such a full circle type moment. Just for as much as we went through to end on a win and with you by my side was just something I'll never forget, and I'm grateful for a positive memory of one of our last times in Conti.
Yeah.
So since we are best friends, what's something that listeners might not know about me?
Well, I'm not sure how much you talk about your basketball prowess, but this person, I think I used to know the numbers by heart. I think it's like you made like 244 3-pointers while you were at Boston College at like a 34% clip, like something astronomical. Like you didn't miss a lot, and you at the time were the record holder for 3-pointers made, which has since unfortunately been broken. But I think that often you tell people that you played basketball at Boston College, but people don't know actually how good you were. Like that's an insane number of threes at an insane percentage, and so it's important for the listeners.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. No, I do not usually talk about it, but you were also a big part of that. You
Yes.
were my number one rebounder
Yes.
for my 4 years, and so I attribute a lot of that to you as well.
Yeah. I earned at least 4 of the 244. Is that number right? Do you know it?
No, I actually really don't. My dad is probably listening, and he'll I'm sure text me after this is released, so I will let you know.
Me and Jim square up on it.
And I know we are obviously huge basketball fans. If you could create your dream basketball event, what would it look like?
Yeah, honestly, it would look eerily similar to the Big East men's basketball tournament, honestly, and some combination of that in the first 2 days of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. I just think like they're pretty perfect events in my eyes. I like the idea of being in New York for a Big East, so that's kind of why I lean towards that. The NCAA tournament is awesome and 2 of my favorite days of the year, but it's scattered. It is one event, but it's different organizations, different cities hosting their own personal event. So I think my ideal event looks pretty similar to the Big East tournament.
I love that. And just to close us out, what is a piece of advice that you would give to a young professional who's looking to get into sports?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I have this quote that always sticks with me when people ask me this question, and it's that if they don't give you a seat at the table, to bring a folding chair. And I think it's kind of like words that I've lived by in the last few years of my life. Just putting myself in the situation to get the opportunity rather than waiting for the opportunity to come to me. And I think that becoming a basketball manager, if you're not good enough to play basketball, getting involved in things that are hard, but that make you learn the value of hard work and working a lot of hours is not glamorous, but it's the thing that got me where I am today.
I think there's a lot that a young professional could take from your experience, just from that's exactly what you've done your whole career is take in as much as you can and put yourself in a position to be successful. And we talk every day, but we don't get a lot of time to really reflect on either of our journeys. And so I'm so grateful that we had this short amount of time to do that. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud to be your friend and so grateful that you took the time to be here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks. I'm so proud of you too. And I think my quote of bringing a folding chair to the table is exactly what you've done it with your company and in this space as well. So proud of both of us.
Okay. Love you. And yeah, thank you all so much for joining. Until next time. Thanks, everyone.